My dear followers, you're welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm back with a new lesson, void chains. In my last class, I discussed about the functions and types of the void chains and a few examples of active to passive. But today, I'll discuss about how to transform active to passive and some rules on this. Here, if you would like to transform active to passive, we have to follow some rules. So look at this rule. The rule number 1, here is object. Where is the red pen? This object of the active voice. Look at this. First rule, object of the active voice. Object of the active voice. Here is an example. They neglect me. Right? This is the sentence. They neglect me. First of all, object of the active voice. Here, me is the object of the active voice because this is an active sentence or active voice. Subject of the passive voice. It will be subject in the case of passive. As it is active, passive, it will be subjective form or nominative case. So, me is I. Next, the rule number 2 or second rule, according to tense. According to tense, each of the passive sentences has a passive auxiliary. According to the tense. So we have to notice in an active sentence, first tense follow the active sentence. Here, they neglect me. They neglect me. There is a plural form of the verb. Plural form of the subject. Neglect is the verb. So, subject, verb, object, and the V1 form of the verb. So, this is a present tense or present simple. Present simple. This sentence is a present simple sentence or present simple tense. So here the passive sentences has a passive auxiliary. We need a passive auxiliary. That is, in the case of be verb, we need am, is, or was word. As this sentence is a present simple tense, so we have to take am, is, or are. Either am or is or are. So we have to think first this subject I deserves am or is or are. I always deserves or I always requires am. So subject plus passive auxiliary plus, then in the third rule, in the case of passive, tense verb is used as a V3 form. That means past participle form of the verb. V3 is the past participle form of the verb. P of verb. Past participle form of the verb. As we need a past participle form of the verb, here is neglect. Neglect is the main verb or tense verb. We have to make this, we have to use this verb as a B3 form. So, I am neglected. I am neglected. I am neglected. Plus B3 form. Plus, the next rule is, rule number 4, subject of the active changes its position. I have already changed. Active here is they. They is the subject of the active voice. it changes its position and also form and by or other prepositions needs or preposition precedes the objective case of the active subject. So they is them objective case. Here is by plus subject of active. So by them. So look at this sentence. The active sentence is they neglect me. In the case of passive, it is I am neglected by them. I am neglected by them because object here the object is me. It will be a subject or the passive and passive auxiliary. After that we have to use the B3 form of the verb plus preposition by plus objective case of the subject of active voice. So dear followers, I hope you clear these 4 rules and tactically I focuses these rules with the example. Now let's have a look at the other examples. Oh dear follower, I missed another important issue, and that is in some cases by plus doer remains absent. So in some cases in the passive sentence by, that means preposition plus doer or objective case of the nominative form of active remains absent. How is it possible? Look at this. The passive sentence I am neglected. I am neglected. This sentence also passive. In this sentence or in this statement, we don't find any by plus object, or we don't mention by plus doer or by plus objective case of the subject of active sentence. It's also a correct sentence and it's also a passive sentence. So when you practice active or passive, or when you practice a voice change, when you find this sort of sentence but we cannot find or we cannot see preposition plus object, don't worry or not to worry, it's also a passive sentence. So sometimes it cannot be mentioned. So dear followers, the next discussion. Now dear followers, let's have a look. This is a very important discussion or important topic or issue. Every students or every English learners have to remember these things or these words. Look at this. Passive auxiliaries in different tenses. In later or previous class I discussed about passive auxiliaries, but I didn't say about passive auxiliaries. Now I am going to reveal this. What is passive auxiliaries? Look at this. Passive auxiliaries in different tenses. Present simple. We know about tenses. We find mainly 3 kinds of tense, and on the basis of these 3 kinds, subtotal is 12 kinds of tenses. But in the case of voice change, we find or we can change only 9 kinds of tenses. We can change a passive into active or active into passive. There is no passive form of verbs in the perfect continuous. That is present perfect continuous, past perfect continuous, or future perfect continuous. 3 tenses can be transformed into passive. So dear followers, look at this. The first one is present simple. In the case of present simple, the passive auxiliaries are am, is, are. In the case of present continuous, it is am being, is being, are being. Present perfect, have been, has been. Past simple, was, were. Past continuous, was being, were being. Past perfect, had been. Future simple, shall be, will be. Future continuous, shall be being, will be being. And future perfect, shall have been, will have been. These are the passive auxiliaries in different tenses. But after these, we have to use in my first lesson, or first of all, I have talked about the passive. I have talked about the form of the main verb. In the passive sentence, we have to use a past participle form of the verb. So after this, plus B3 form of the verb, B3 form of the verb, B3, 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 B3 is a passive. 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 So, dear followers, these are the passive auxiliaries, and in different tenses we have to use these auxiliary verbs, but these auxiliary verbs is very much related or depends on the subject, such as the present simple, I do the work. I do the work, or I have a tea, or I am going to school. So in the case of, we have, it depends, this passive auxiliary depends on the subject and its person, it's singular or plural. So dear followers, I hope you clear this class, and this lesson will be helpful to understand the voice change. And my further class or further session, I will discuss about voice change in detail situation or detail with the detailed examples and detailed roles. So that's all for the time being. Allah Hafiz.